think about what people were obsessing over online 5 or 6 years ago, the conversations that were everywhere, the things that got the most engagement, the qualities people were performing and rewarding and chasing. It was wealth, followers, productivity, hustle culture, the grind, how early you woke up, and how much you optimized your morning, and how many streams of income you had running simultaneously. And now look at what people are talking about: taste, curation, aesthetics, vibe, cultural literacy, personal style, creative direction, world building. That is not a small shift, that is a complete reorientation of what people value and what they want to be perceived as having. And I think the reason why is actually more interesting than just trends cycling through like they always do. So let me give you a theory that I find fascinating. For most of the human history, status looked like land, titles, money, inherited power, then it became education, career, the degree you had, the company you worked for, the salary you could mention. Then the internet arrived, and for a while, status looked like followers, reach, virality, how many people were watching you. But something is shifting again, and the shift makes a lot of sense when you think about what has changed in the last few years. Information is now basically free. In 2005, knowing about a cool, underrated fashion designer was genuinely impressive because information was scarce. You had to be in the right rooms, reading the right magazines, knowing the right people to have that kind of cultural knowledge. And access itself was the flex. But in 2026, everyone has Pinterest and TikTok and Instagram and fashion archives and decades of internet history available in their pockets all the time. So finding information is not a skill anymore. Anyone can find anything. The valuable skill now is knowing what to do with it, what to choose, what to ignore, what works together, what feels timeless versus what feels like it will embarrass you in 3 years, what is actually good versus what just looks good right now because the algorithm keeps showing it to everyone. That is taste, and that is literally what taste is. And when access becomes equal, selection becomes a new advantage, which means taste becomes a new status. And then AI made this even more urgent in a way I don't think most people notice. When anyone can generate an image in seconds, write a blog post, make a logo, build a mood board, produce a track, design a brand, the question that used to matter the most, can you make something, becomes almost irrelevant. The tool can make something, the tool can make thousands of something while you are just sitting and thinking about what you want to make. The question that actually matters now is, can you tell what is good? Can you look at 100 generated options and know which one is right? Can you feel the difference between something that works and something that almost works? And can you make decisions that reflect a genuine point of view rather than just picking whatever tasted well or whatever the brief technically asked for? And that is discernment, that is taste. And it cannot be automated because it comes from a specific inner world that a machine does not have. And this is why people are suddenly obsessed with creative directors and stylists and art directors and editors and curators. People whose entire value is not in their ability to produce, but in their ability to decide, to choose, to shape, to say yes to this and no to that and mean it. Taste becomes the new bottleneck, and the bottleneck is always where the value goes. Let's talk about what happened to content creators specifically because I think this tells a lot about the story. A few years ago, the internet figured out a formula and it worked. It worked really well, actually. It was like, use these 3 viral hooks, this particular font, this particular style, this particular editing style, this particular kind of color grading, this posting cadence. There were entire courses and channels, communities built around teaching people the exact playbook for growth. And people followed it because it worked, the algorithm rewarded it, the numbers usually used to went up. The problem is that when millions of people follow the same playbook, everything starts coming out of the same place. The content might be genuinely good, useful, well made, but it becomes almost impossible to remember who made it. You watch a video and you cannot tell if it was made by this person or someone you have never heard of because they all sound the same and look the same and move through ideas the same way, and the audience can feel it. People started gravitating towards creators they could recognize before they even saw the username, the ones with a specific editing rhythm that was only theirs, a color palette that felt personal to them, or a way of speaking that they could not mistake for anyone else, a specific sense of humor or a particular philosophy, or even just imperfections that felt human and real. That recognition, that feeling of this could only have come from this specific person, that became the thing because people were actually hungry for it. And here is the irony of this whole situation. The algorithm spent years incentivizing sameness. It rewarded copying what worked. So everyone copied what worked. And now that everyone has copied everything, originality has become rare. And when something becomes rare, it becomes valuable. So now the same internet that spent years flattening everyone into the same content shape is suddenly rewarding the people who never fully fit into the same shape to begin with. So, which brings me back to the taste and why this movement is actually a really big deal. The monowork post that went around said something like, taste is a social currency, and most people do not actually know what they like because taste has been so easily outsourced to the algorithm. You see something enough times and it starts to feel like your preference when it really is just familiarity. And that distinction matters because what we are talking about when we talk about taste is not really aesthetics, not really fashion, not really curation in the Instagram sense of the word. We are talking about identity. The internet spent years teaching people how to be successful, what to post, how to present, what to say, which trends to follow, how to optimize every decision for maximum reach. And a lot of people got really good at being successful on those terms. But in the process, something got a little buried. The actual self underneath all the strategy, the genuine preferences that were not chosen because they performed well, but because they just felt right. The specific inner world that makes a person recognizable as themselves rather than a well executed version of whatever was working at the time. And now people are trying to find that again, asking questions that probably should have been asked earlier but got drowned out by the noise of the formula era. What do I actually like? What are my real references? What is my visual language when nobody is watching and nothing is trending? What is my taste? Not what Pinterest likes, not what TikTok rewards, just something which is mine. And that is why terms like personal brand and creative direction and world building have exploded the way they have. People are not just looking for content anymore, they are looking for entire universes. Creators who feel like a specific world you want to spend time in rather than just another account with a good production value. And you can feel the difference immediately. The polished creator might look perfect, everything technically correct, but the distinctive creator feels human. And humans remember humans. And that is just how we are built. I do not think individuality ever completely died. I think it got buried under incentives. The algorithm made copying the logical move, so people copied, and now that everyone has copied, uniqueness became the new advantage, which is creating this fascinating cycle where originality is rare and rarity makes it valuable, and everyone suddenly starts searching for taste as a way to find something real in a feed full of things that look the same. So is taste the new status? Honestly, I think yes. At least in the spaces where cultural and creative identity matters, which is increasingly most spaces online. Because think about the things people generally obsess over now, certain cafes, certain fashion brands, certain creators, certain phones. The product matters, but the taste signal matters just as much. People are not just buying things anymore, they are buying identity makers, ways of communicating something about who they are, and what they value, and what kind of world they inhabit. That used to be communicated through wealth, through what you could afford, through the brand names you could access, and now it is being communicated through discernment, through what you choose from everything available, through the specific combination of references and aesthetic and sensibilities that adds up to a point of view that is recognizably yours. And the people with the most genuine taste, not the performative taste, not the curated for the approval taste, but the actual internal, deeply personal taste that comes from the years of paying attention to what actually moves them, those people are becoming the most interesting ones in the room, which means the work of developing taste is not really about fashion or aesthetics or becoming a more interesting person online. It is about the slower, more private work of actually knowing yourself. What do you like and why? What consistently pulls you back when nothing is pushing you towards it? What feels like you versus what you absorb from the internet and mistook for preference? That work is uncomfortable and gradual and does not make a great montage. You cannot hack it or shortcut it or follow a tutorial for it. But it is the only version that actually holds up, the only version that cannot be replicated by someone else following the same playbook. In a world where everything is accessible and everything looks the same and AI can produce anything in seconds, the most valuable and the most protected thing you have is the perspective that is generally yours. That is the real flex now. Not what you can afford, not how many people you're watching, what you actually see and how you see it.